Good morning, class. So, for this week's lesson, we will now continue our topic on our second chapter about force vectors. And for specifically in this lesson, we will talk about Cartesian vectors for three-dimensional systems. So as you can remember, on our previous lesson, we have talked about vectors that are oriented in 2D or in planar, or we are talking about forces that are coplanar with each other, which means they lie on the same plane. But now on this topic, we will now talk about force vectors that are oriented on a three-dimensional system. So, in this lesson, our main goal is to be familiar with the three-dimensional Cartesian coordinate system. That is for our number one goal. For our second goal is to determine the components of a force in 3D. So, we have to know the x, y, z components of a force. And lastly, we should also solve for the resultant force of two or more vectors. Okay? And again, those vectors are oriented in 3D. Okay, so now, let us first be familiar with the Cartesian coordinate system. Diba, as you can remember on our previous topic, we have dealt with U and V axis. But ni kuanta ni nagsabot ta nga mag-focus lang ta sa X and Y coordinate system, which is katong ang X and Y axis nimo is perpendicular with each other. And we will also apply it to our three-dimensional system. But now, we have to include another axis, which is your z-axis. So, your x, y, and z axis are perpendicular with each other. Okay? And we have this rule that I guess you are familiar with in your physics, which is ang imong right-hand rule. Wherein, if you are going to... Sama na ako pag video. You have this... you have this right hand, di ba? And ang imong x-axis is oriented towards you. And your y-axis is oriented to this direction sa akong finger. So, padung siya diri. Padung dira ang atong y-axis. And ang atong z-axis is oriented pababaw. So, that is basically your right-hand rule. And to make it easier for you to imagine, let's just look at this figure. So, let's say you have this coordinate system. Okay? So, imagine nga natin nga coordinate system. And applying your right-hand rule, as you can see in this case, di ba kaganihan niingon ko nga, kung ang imong line is going towards you, that is your x-axis. So, in this case dere, our red line here is mao ni ang padung diri sa ako. Okay? So, yung anak kung tayo na siya. And ang kanang imong red nga line, that is your x-axis. Okay? So, and take note also that the positive x-axis is going towards you. So, kani nga line, mao ni ang positive x-axis. So, if ever your components are located in this line, then you can say that your component, your x component, is a positive component. However, if it's going on this line, so that is a negative x component. Okay? Now, how about sa atong y component? Actually, balik ta dito katong forward na tong x. Inigtanaw ni mo ana, this blue line going to the right, that is your positive y-axis. Okay? And on the other hand, your negative y-axis is going to the left. Okay? And how about your z-axis? your z-axis, your positive z-axis is going pataas, pataas ang imong z-axis, and ang imong negative z-axis is going to the down. It's going downwards. Okay? So ing ana lang kung lisod i-imagine sa kwan, so naghimo jud kog 3D kay para mas maklaro ninyo. Okay? Understood. Okay, so say for example, ato kung tayo butangan og force. So let's put a force. Butangan kung tayo natong force, and this is your force, that white color. And in this case, your force is on the first octant, or on the positive XYZ octant. What does that mean? So, di ba, niingon man ko kaganiha nga, this is your positive x-axis, this is your positive y-axis, and this is your positive z-axis. And this force here is located on this positive x, y, and z-axis. So, wala siya na-locate dere, wala siya na-locate dere, wala siya na-locate dito sa pikas, or wala siya na-locate sa ubos. Okay? So, mala ko gingon nga positive x, y, z octant. Nganong octant man? Kay this is composed of 8 nga mga chuchu. Unsa man ang chuchu? So, natay positive x, y, z octant, natay positive x, negative y, positive z octant, naatay negative x, positive y, positive z octant, natay negative x, negative y, positive z octant, napunta diri sa ubos, positive x, negative y, negative z octant, and blah 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 chu chu chu. So mo na akong giingon nga octant. Okay, understood? So again, this force here is located on your positive xyz octant. Now, di ba we have learned how to determine the components of a force on a two-dimensional system. But how about you are given a 3D? A 3D like this. So, atong previously, we learned how to solve for the fx and the fy. But now we have a z-axis, so we also need an fz. Okay? So, now, sige daw, ato daw tan-anong components ani nga force. So, this is the components of your force. So, basically, this line here, ang line nga gikan diri sa imong origin, padung diri ani nga point, this is the component of your x, in this force. Okay? Kay, as you can see, naghimo ko og box diri, and this still applies sa atong sa atong parallelogram nga rule nga atong gi-apply last sa atong previous nga lesson. Pero karon nahimo na siyang box kay nga naman kay 3D naman siya. So naghimo kog parallel line sa akong x-axis, which is kani parallel line sa x-axis. Naghimo kog parallel line sa atong y-axis, and naghimo po kog parallel line sa atong z-axis. Mao gyapon ako gibuhat. And then kung asa na nag-meet sila, then this is the component of your x, which is from the origin again to this point here. That is the component of your x. The component of your y is from the origin to this point here. Okay, mao nang atong component sa atong y. And for our z, the distance from this point here up to this point along the z-axis. So that is your z component. So how are we going to determine for the x, the y, and the z component? Sige. So, if ang inyong instructor naghatag og given sa angle diri ug diri, in this case, you can get your fz and your f prime. So, unsa man din ang fz ug f prime? So basically, again, this is your fz. And this is your f prime. Okay? Nganong f prime man na kay wala dili pa man ni along sa atong x ug y nga components. So para mahimo na siyang fx ug fy, dapat na po na siya given nga angle probably between this component, this line and this x nimo nga coordinate. Okay? Again, in order for you to determine the components of this force F, let us first focus on this triangle, which is this one, and this one. Okay? So, in order for you to get your F with these components, ang imo lang buhaton is imo lang i-add ng duha ka kaning atong kaninga line and then kaninga line. Therefore, that is just basically your F, which is this one, is just equal to FZ. Diba? Kaya mao maning FZ. And i-add po ni nato kaning isa. But we don't have a name of this yet because this is just the sum of your fx and fy. So, ang ato lang sa itawag ana is ang imong f prime. Again, to get your f, ang imo lang buhaton is to sum this forces of f prime, which is this one, and your fz, which is this one. So, connect na nimo gamit ang atong katong triangular method siguro i-connect nimo ang head, then mupadulong ka dira nga force. Okay? But on the other hand also wala pa man ta nahuman kay wa man puta kay baw aning f prime. Okay? So but basically sa ani nga case mura na ni siya og 2D. 'Di ba? Mura na siya og 2D. So and inigtanaw nato ani dire mao ni ang atong f prime. So how can you get the components of your f prime? If again ato i-rotate kay para if again this is your positive x axis and this is your positive y axis. Okay? So sa pagkuha nato sa f prime. So basically your f prime is just equal to fx plus fy. Therefore, kung imo ni input diri sa atong f prime diri, basically your f can be summed up of your components of fx plus fy plus fz. Okay? So, ingana lang nakuha na nimo ang component sa atong 3D nga force of your F. Now, how can you get these values? Diba kay mao ni atong FZ, mao ni atong FY ug mao ni atong FX. Again, take note parehas ra ni silang values kay parehas ra ni silang height diri. Atong FZ mao ni siya ang atong FY mao ni siya and kani siya and atong FX mao ni siya og kani siya. Okay? So, unsa naman ni nato? For example, maghatag ko og angle diri nga 45 degrees. Then how can you get FZ? Ha? Sayon lang kaayo ato gamito ng atong sine because this is opposite over your hypotenuse. 'Di ba? And for you to get this f prime, gamit gyapon ani nga triangle, ang imo lang gyapon buhaton is imong gamiton ng imong cosine. So, adjacent over hypotenuse. And now, kung naana ka sa imong 2D, then sayo na pud kayo siya kung given ang atong angle dire. Then to get your x component which is this one or this one, so imo lang buhaton is cosine. Diba? Okay, this is adjacent over hypotenuse. And lastly, to get your y component, then ang imo lang buhaton is sine, opposite over hypotenuse. Ingana lang siya kasayon kung imo i-establish ang imong xyz coordinate and to get your x and y components. Okay? So, easy breezy. Sayon lang kaayo, pero lisod i-discuss. So, okay, now, if you want to express a 3D force into its Cartesian vector, So all you have to do if you already have identified its components, ang imo lang imo lang buhaton is for you to get saman katong fx and your fy and your fz. And siguro naka-picture out na mo unsa pagkuha sa fx, fy ug fz gamit atong kadtong mga sine, mga cosine. And now, nakahinumdum mo nga ato na sila ipang-add and then ato na sila butangan og I, j, and k. So therefore, fxi, fyj, and fzk. So yung ana lang pag-express ang atong force into its Cartesian vector. Okay? So kani siya, number na siya, number ni siya, and number na siya. And makuha lang ninimo if kadtong imong gipang solve ang kadtong iyang mga components. So this is your x component of your f, your y component of your f, and your z component of your f. Okay? So, nga na lang ka dali kuhaon and dali sa pag-express atong force into its Cartesian coordinate. Okay. And now, how about dili ang force ang given sa imo, but you are only given its components. And what is required is for you to determine the value of your force given again your components. So ang gihatag nimo kay ang fx, ang fy, and ang fz. So unsa man nimo pagkuha sa ana nga mga components. So ato tan-awon diri balik sa atong AutoCAD. And then again, we learned that this is your fx, diba? And this is your fy. Diba? So, inigtanaw na to ana sa top view. Unsa may mahitabo. So, diba makahimo taging ani. And then makita nimo nga this is a triangle, this one, and this one. So, this is your x component and this is your y component. And we learned that this is your f prime. Okay? So, in order for you to get your f prime, all you have to do is to do Pythagorean theorem, which is this is your hypotenuse, your f prime, and this is your sides, your fx and fy. So, iniguha nimo ana to get your f prime equals to square root of fx squared plus fy squared. So, yung ana lang pagkuha sa imong f prime. Now, that you have able to determine your fy, which is this one, and you are given with your z component, so ato na po na siya tan-awon sa ani na pod nga direction. So this is your z component and this is your f prime. So to get your f, all you have to do is to use Pythagorean theorem again sa imong f prime squared plus fz squared. Okay? So, ingana lang pagkuha sa atong force of F in this case. Now, let's have an example. So, we have this force vector that is oriented on a 3D. And we have to express your force F into its Cartesian vector. Or, maotong kadtong fxi plus fyj plus fzk. So, how can we solve this problem? So, ato siya ibutang sa AutoCAD kay base naglibog mo og tan-aw. So, this is your 100 newtons, 100 pounds of force that is oriented on this octant. As you can see, unsa man ni siya nga octant, this is your positive x, this is your negative y, and positive z octant. Okay? And giingon sa atong example that this angle here and this one Ang angle daw ana nila is 60 degrees. Wala na ako gibutangan og angle dira kay di na ako hibawon sa pagbutang. Tudlog utok ka di ko mao. Okay. Okay, so and also gihatag po diri sa example that the angle from this point, this line and this line is 45 degrees. Okay? So, sayon lang siya pagpangita, sayon lang siya pag-solve. Kung saan man ni siya pag-solve, 'di ba? Ato unahon pagkuha ang FZ. Get FZ. Sa pagkuha sa FZ. So, ang imo lang paggamit pagkuha sa FZ, you can see that this one is a triangle and this length is known, which is 100 pounds. And you have this angle of 60 degrees. So, for you to get FZ, unsa man imong buhaton? Opposite over hypotenuse. So, that is sine of 60 degrees is equal to opposite, which is FZ, over hypotenuse of F. So therefore, your FZ is just equal to F sine 60 degrees. So therefore, this is 100 pounds sine 60 degrees. Therefore, this is equal to 86.6 pounds. Okay, so this is your FZ. And, di ba, naingon ko ganihan nga, di na to makuha dayon ng x o y. Kaya we have to first get your f prime. So, in order for you to get your f prime, tanaw na po tani nga triangle, and as you can see, you have this f prime. This is adjacent of your angle of 60 degrees, and this is your hypotenuse. So, that is cosine of 60 degrees is equal to f prime over f, and that is basically just equal to f prime is equal to f cosine of 60 degrees, or this is 100 cosine 60 degrees. So pila man na siya? That is equal to 50 pounds. Okay? So nakuha na natong fz o f prime. And we know that your f prime is just equal to your fx plus fy. And ato tanawon diri sa AutoCAD, as you can see, this one, this triangle here, pwede na nato ma-solve ang atong fx and fy gamit ang nga triangle. And gihatag dito sa atong problem that this angle is 45 degrees. So, ato lang buhaton is to what? Ato lang i-drawing para di ta maglibog. So, ana. Mao ni atong 45 degrees, and then mao ni ang atong fx o fy. And this is your f prime, which is equal to 50 pounds. So therefore, to get your fx, imo lang buhaton is 50 sine of 45. Ako nagidiretso, okay? Wa na ako naging ani, ako lang gidiretso. Okay? So pila man ang 50 sine 45? That is 35.35 pounds. So that is your fx. And your fy, since this is 45, then this line is equal to this line. So, imong fy lang is just also equal to 35.35 pounds. Are we done yet? Are we done? Not yet. Okay. Are we done? So, ngano man, kay we have to express this one as a Cartesian vector. So, therefore, what are we going to do? Ato siya express katong axi ay fxi plus fyj plus fzk. And since we know these components, this one, and this one, then we can express this force into its Cartesian coordinate, Cartesian vector. So therefore, your f is just equal to 35.35 I. Unsa man tatong y? Di ba? Kaya ang atong y kay negative di ay. Kaya nga naman, because this is located on the negative axis of y. So therefore, minus 35.35j. And ang atong z-axis is positive, so plus 86.6k. And para di ta magbalik-balik kung butang og pounds, ato na lang siya i-bracket and igawas ang. So, this is your final answer for this problem. So, this one is in Cartesian vector form. Okay? Take note that para ma-express nimong force into its Cartesian vector form, imo lang buhaton og I, J, ug K. Okay? So, nga na lang kasayo ng problem. Understood? Okay. So, let's proceed. You also have this what you call direction angles. And kaning direction angles na to, let's see sa atong gihimong example earlier. We have this what you call alpha, beta, and gamma. These are our three direction angles. And unsa man ni sila? Actually, your alpha is just the angle from your positive x-axis to the direction of your force, which is mo na siya. Positive x-axis to the direction of your force. Your beta is from your positive y-axis to the direction of your force. Always take note, positive nga direction sa imong axis. But since ang kaning sa ato diri nga problem kay na-orient man ang atong force sa negative y, then most probably your angle will be bigger than 90 degrees. So your angle is from this point up to this point, which is big, which is greater than 90, which is obtuse. Okay? And for your z-axis, we have this what you call gamma. Okay? So alpha, beta, and gamma. Alpha for x, beta for y, and gamma for your positive z. So basically, this green line and this direction of your angle. Mao lang na sila. And now, how can you get these direction angles? Huh? We only have this equation nga very common na nato nga sige na to gamit sa itong mga problems karon. Di ba? Take note. Sige, ato kuhaon kung tayo ang angle sa atong sa atong alpha. Okay. So, to get your alpha, di ba? You already knew the x component of your force. Okay? So, ato buhaton, ato ni tanaw nga triangle. Kana siya nga triangle. So, we have this triangle. Kani, ang labaw lang na siya kay kuan. So, tanawa ni nga triangle. This is your triangle. Okay? And basically, this one is a right triangle. As you can see, kitan dira. Diba? This is 90 degrees dere, and this is your alpha. So therefore, in order for you to get this direction angle of alpha, imo lang buhaton is imong adjacent over adjacent, which is this line here, which is your x components imong force over your force. So therefore, cosine alpha is just equal to again adjacent, which is fx over f. Na lang. And diri na pud ta ato nitong taon para dili ilibog kay mura na tag nagka-webs. So diri ta sa atong y. So ang direction again from here to here. Okay? So, and for your direction sa imong y, maghimo na pud ka og line Mukag line from here to here. So, makita makita ninyo nga triangle which is this one, and this one. So, kani gihapon right triangle gihapon ni siya. So, to get for the direction angle of your beta, so ang imo lang buhaton is cosine beta is equal to fy over f. Di ba? Kay ang ato na pud deal diri kay ang iyang adjacent over hypotenuse, which is this one over your hypotenuse of that one. Okay, for our beta. But in this case, di ba niingon man ko nga gikan sa positive x-axis padung diri sa atong force. So, unsa may imong buhaton? Di ba we already knew that this is 180 degrees. So, imo lang buhaton is, in this case, diri sa atong problem, kay naman siya sa atong negative nga side, and niingon ko nga ang beta is from positive y to the direction of the force. Therefore, ang imo lang buhaton, kay mao man ning angle nga imo nakuha, then, all you have to do is 180 minus ang imong na-solve nga angle to get beta. Okay? So, now, how about your gamma? Sa atong gamma, saan naman itong gamma? So, from this component sa atong z to this tip of the force. So, you have this triangle. And this one is your angle of gamma. Okay? That is your angle of gamma. And let's focus on this triangle. So, therefore, to get your gamma, all you have to do is still adjacent over hypotenuse. So, cosine of gamma is equal to fz over f. So, these are the formula that you have. Dili good siya. Dapat nimo i-remember. But at least you know the concept kung asa na sila na-locate. Okay? And these are very important, especially if you are going to solve for the direction angles. So, sige daw. Ato daw to i-try atong example kaganiha. Ato i-try og determine ang direction angles ato niya. Diba? We have learned that the Cartesian vector of that force is equal to 35.4 I minus 35.4 J plus 86.6 K. Diba? And we know that your F has a magnitude of 100 pounds. So aman ni siya. Very easy. Ato lang ini gamiton nga mga formula. To get your alpha, all you have to do is to inverse cosine of fx, which is this one. So, 35.4 over your f, the magnitude of your force, which is 100. Beta, di ba? Niyon kung ganiha nga naaman siya, tungod kay naaman siya sa atong negative, or pwede lang nato diretso input siguro, inverse cosine of negative 35.4 over 100. And your gamma is inverse cosine of 86.6 over 100. So therefore, your alpha has an angle of 69.27 degrees. Your beta has an angle of 110.73 degrees. Again, wala na ako nag-minus ani og 180 tungod kay ako naging negative. So kung i-negative ni nimo, then you will immediately get the answer from the positive y-axis. Okay? And for your gamma, so you have 30 degrees. So these are the direction angles of your force. Understood? I hope you did. Kay probably libog ang discussion tungod kay 3D. But if you practice again and again, then you will answer this kind of problem without a sweat. Okay, so you already knew how to solve for the alpha, beta, and gamma. And I guess you already have known how to solve for the components of a force that is directed on an octant. Okay, so and now, how about if we are going to add vectors in 3D? So, unsa naman po nato ang atong mga triangular rule, or I guess those kind of approaches when we are dealing in this with this kind of problem is more tedious. And to make it a lot easier, we can apply those concepts that we have learned on our 2D, katong ij, I, and j. Okay? And we can now still apply it on our ij and k components. So, unsaon man na nato? 'Di ba? Naka-remember mo nga nag-add ta sa tanan x components sa mga forces, nag-add ta sa mga y components sa mga forces. And karon, we can still apply that one, and then with the addition of the z component. Okay, so let's have an example. I have here a hook that is subjected to two forces. And now, we are going to find the resultant force of these two forces that are acting in this hook. Okay, so I have here a figure on our AutoCAD sa direction sa atong forces kaganiha. This is how those forces look like. Okay, and in this case, siguro maglipog mong tanaw kay sa pagtanaw in 2D. Sige, ato tanaw in 3D. So, basin libog pakitaon kay walay mga coordinates. So, ato butangan og components. So, mao na ni ang iyang itsura when we have put the components. And so, as you can see, this force is directed on our positive x-axis, your positive y-axis, and your negative z-axis. Diba? Okay, ang negative ang atong z because it is located at the negative side, below. Okay? And you have this another force, this one, which is only directed to your y and z axis. So, kani siya naka-point ni siya sa imong y-axis, and also it is on your positive y-axis, and it has a component on your positive z-axis as well. But it doesn't have a component on your x-axis. Okay? Okay? Again, naa siya sa atong YZ plane. Wala siya naka-arrow sa sa octant. Pero nilay lang siya sa atong YZ nga plane. Okay? And this angle here, ang giingon dito sa atong problem is 30 degrees ang angle dira. And this one is 45 degrees. So our goal in this problem is to solve for the resultant of the two forces. Okay? So unsa may una nato buhaton? Ang ato una buhaton is ato pangitaon ang component sa each force. So ato pangitaon ang component sa F1, which is ang F1x, F1y, and F1z. And we also have to look for the components of our F2, which is F2x, F2y, and F2z. So, ato na tagsa-tagsaon. So, force 1, or mao ni atong gitawag nga F1. And, again, unsaon ganito pagpangita sa component sa ani nga force? Sige, unsaon ganito? So, ang z pa man ang una nato makuha, di ba? So, ato pangita ng Fz. So, asa na ganito magtanaw para makuha natong Fz? So, we have to focus on this triangle. This triangle here. So, kana. Okay? And ining tanaw na to ana nga side, makita ta nga this is a right triangle. Therefore, we can solve this one by using our trigonometric function. So katowa. Okay? And we knew that this angle is 45 degrees. So therefore, to get your FZ, all we have to do is to, di ba, kadong, sa mani, opposite over hypotenuse, that is that is sine. But ato na idiretso, so unsa man to? 800 sine 45 degrees. So therefore, your FZ in this case is 565.69 pounds. Unsaon ganin ito na to pagkuha ang atong Fx ug Fy? Again, dili pa nato dayon makuha ang atong Fx ug Fy. Okay? As we are going to look it on the top view, mao pa ni ang atong pwede ma-solve ang kani nga line, which is we learned that this one is your F prime, 'di ba? And when you get your F prime, then you can get your X and Y components. Sakto? Okay. So, unsa na naman ni? Ato ko ng F prime. F prime. F prime is equal to unsa naman ni? Balik ta ni nga triangle kay diri pa man ta mag-focus nga triangle kani kana and kana. So this is your F prime, right? Because this is your FZ. So to get your F prime, we have to use cosine. So 800 cosine of 45 degrees. So therefore, so your answer is just the same, 565.69 pounds. Okay? So now, you have determined your F prime. We can now solve for our Fx and Fy. Diba? And we knew that this angle here is 30 degrees. It is given dito sa atong problem. So, ato unahon pagkuha ang atong x component. So, atong Fx. Fx is equal to, this is mao ni atong x, di ba? Mao ni atong x. So unsa man na siya? This is adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay? So pwede po ta mong tan-aw ni nga triangle because this has the same length of this one there is ibabaw. So adjacent dire lang ta. Adjacent over hypotenuse. So that is ka. That is cosine. And pilay magnitude sa imong hypotenuse? This is your magnitude of your hypotenuse. So, 565.69 cosine of 30 degrees. So, what is your answer? Your answer is 489.90 pounds. Okay? How about your Fy? So, sa case sa imong Fy, as you can see here, this is your Fy, and this is opposite to your angle. So, opposite over hypotenuse, that is sine. So, 565.69 sine of 30 degrees. So, your answer is 282.845 or 85 pounds. So therefore, your F1, nakalimut ko butang, F1, so muna dapat ha. So your F1 has a Cartesian vector 489.9 I. So ato karon tan-awon diri sa atong coordinate system para sa atong signs. Ang atong x is directed positive. So it is directed towards me. So therefore it is positive 489.9 I. And your y is also on the positive direction, therefore plus 282.85 j. And as you can see on our z direction, it is negative because it is going downwards. So negative 565.69 K and unit pounds. Okay, so wala pa tanahuman kay this is just your Cartesian vector notation of this force 1. How about on your force 2? Or your F2? So in this case, as you can see, tungod kay kani nga force is just directed on the YZ plane. It doesn't go on your X. So therefore, you can just immediately conclude that your F2X is just equal to 0 pounds. Again, kay wala siya X component, kay naa siya sa atong YZ plane, ang atong force. Okay? O, ato unahon ang atong Y component. So, F2Y is equal to, sige, ako lang iswat diri para dili ta maglibog. So, this is your Y and this is your Z. And this is 3, 4, 5. Okay? So, para dili lang ta magtan-aw. So, to get your Y, to get this Y component, all you have to do is to just multiply this force, which is 500 newtons, ay 500 pounds. So, by 4/5, di ba? Kaya ang horizontal, 4 divided by the hypotenuse. So, 4/5 times 500 pounds. And that is 400 pounds. So, your 400 pounds is your Y component of your F2. And your Z component, F2Z, is equal to, ang vertical, so 3/5 times 500 pounds. So, basically, this is just 300 pounds. So, ato tan-an siya sa atong Cartesian vector notation. Atong F2 di is equal to, since wala man tayo X, so pwede na nato dili apelon sa pagbutang ng X. Ato lang ibutang is ang 400J, positive and positive, plus 300K pounds. Muna yung mga forces sa atong F1 and F2. Now, how are you going to add these two forces, F1 and F2? Ang ato lang buhaton is ato i-add ang X, 0 man ang X dire, so wala i-add. Ang atong Y, i-add na to. And ang atong Z, i-add na to. Okay? So, sige. At ako na na-erase dire ha, okay? And ang ato lang paagi sa pag-solve na to ani is we are just using the scalar notation para dili ta maglibog atong vector nga daghang mga chichiboriche. Okay? So, sige, ato ikuan FRX. Ato is sum tanan FRX. So, F1x plus F2x. So, F1x plus F2x. So, unsa imo F1x? 489.9 plus F2x 0. So therefore, your FRX is just 489.9 pounds. Okay, so that is your FRX. How about your FRY? F2x plus F2y. Diba? So what is your X? 282.85. Your F1 and your F2 is plus 400. So your answer here is 682.85 pounds. Okay? So ako ragian ang J. And karon FRZ is just the sum of this one plus this one. So negative 565.69 plus 300. So, since negative man yung isa, so ito yung minus. So, negative 265.69 pounds. So, this is your resultant force sa imong duha ka forces of F1 and F2. And now, ako na po gi-erase, I'm so sorry. So, if you're going to express your FR into its Cartesian vector, then all you have to do is to Write it as 489.9i plus 682.85j minus 265.69k. Okay? How about if we are going to determine the magnitude of the resultant force? That is just simply by applying your Pythagorean theorem. Actually. So what are we going to do? Ato lang ibuhat to get the magnitude of your R. Ato lang ibuhat is ato is-square root ang silang tulo. So 489.9 square plus 682.85 square plus negative 265.69 squared. And you will have the magnitude of your resultant force. Sige daw. So the magnitude of your resultant force is 881.41 pounds. Okay? So this is your answer. Actually, dili ko sure kung unsa joy gipangayo kay ang gipangayo diri kay determine the resultant force acting on the hookman. And probably kung mas gi-specify pa niya resultant force in vector, then this is your answer. If nanguta na siya, determine the magnitude of the resultant force, then this is your answer. And, or, kung manguta na siya, determine the magnitude and direction of your resultant force, then wala pa tanahuman. Nga naman, because we are still going to determine your alpha, beta, and gamma. So, unsa man tong alpha, beta, gamma gani? Ato ra gyapon to i-apply ang equation. Cosine alpha is equal to kani 489.9 ngano ganing kani because this is your x component sa imong FR divided by the magnitude of your FR which is this one 881.41. Okay, so therefore your alpha is just the inverse cosine of this one. So bilang answer. This is 56.23 degrees ang imong alpha. Ang imong beta, inverse cosine of 682.85 divided by 881.41 which is 39.22 degrees. Imong beta. And your gamma, lastly, is inverse cosine of this one, negative 265.69 over 881.41. So your gamma, your answer of your gamma is 107.54 degrees. So kung again, kung pangayoon niyang direction angles, then you have to show your answers. Kani nga mga answers. Okay? So, ing-ana siya kasayon, pero ing-ana siya kataas solvon. So, all you have to do is just to be patient and just to analyze the problem by just using your brain. Diba? Understood? So now, I hope that you have learned how to determine the components of a force directed in 3D. And I hope that you have learned how to determine also the force mismo if ang given kay ang yang components. I hope you also learned how to solve for the alpha, beta, and gamma. And I hope you already knew as well how to add two or more forces sa 3D. And basically, same na gapon imong application, imo to i-add ang F1, F2, ug F3. Okay? And I hope lang na nakasabot mo sa atong lesson karon. If you still haven't catched up on some of the parts here, then it's better for you to review those parts that you don't understand yet and go back to this lesson and probably makasabot na mo dayon. Okay? So if you have questions, please put it on the comment section on the post that I will post later, and so that I can answer those questions one by one. And please don't be shy. Okay, I understand that this topic is very, very confusing, and practice lang dyan ang importante sa inyo. Okay? Understood? We still have another lecture, and stay tuned. Bye.